You're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate this series of hearings you've been holding. I'm a new co-chair of something called the Quiet Skies Caucus. That name may be the self-evident or convey the self-evident understanding that airplane noise has become a national issue, and it's a bipartisan issue here in the Congress. Of course, my own airport is Reagan National Airport. I also am aware that there are a number of contributing factors. For example, we had manufacturers here, and they discussed quieter planes, I believe it was last week. And of course, there's the controversy over next gen or the new flight procedures. And then there's early morning and late night planes. I would call those the three major causes of the concern of members from coast to coast, I must tell you, about airplane noise. I wonder, Mr. Donahue, because I read in your testimony, and I commend you, because there's a line in your testimony that says, outboard runways are typically closed from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's a much more reasonable hour than, for example, we have at Reagan National, where as late as 1 a.m. planes can go, and before 5 a.m., because you can imagine what that must mean in some neighborhoods. When did you go to 11 p.m. and 6 a.m.? And has that time frame had any negative effects on airplane operations? Was the FAA involved? How you decided to go to those hours?
Okay, thank you, Congresswoman, for the question. Just to clarify, we do not have a curfew at DFW Airport. What we have is the luxury of 7 runways.
You don't have a curfew, so 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. is because of what?
That's just an operational decision we've made. Because
you've always had that.
I'll have to let you know. I've only been at DFW 3 years, but
I wish you would.
We'll let you know. But we have the flexibility, because of 7 runways, to use our inboard runways for overnight operations, and we just think that's the right thing to do from a community perspective.
Does that mean that you do have late night flights?
Absolutely.
Flights, and you don't have complaints from your community?
Because we're on a footprint that's about 17,000 acres, we have about 800,000 operations a year at DFW, and I think we had maybe 400 to 500 noise complaints. So we average less.
It's the size of the airport that helps you.
It does. It does. The size and the flexibility we have with the runways.
Of course, this is a major airport that you represent. I have one more question on the so-called DBE program, and that is the inclusion of minorities and women in the construction of and renovation of airports. I think this is probably best for Mr. Donahue and Mr. Little. This committee has only recently reaffirmed in its reauthorization of the FAA its commitment to the inclusion of minorities and women in this work. Now, the Inspector General in his report cited the bundling of major construction and concession contracts to a single contractor as a barrier to women and minorities becoming a part of airport construction. So I'd like to ask you if you have had any experience with this approach, that is to say bundling. Do you understand how that would almost per se or automatically exclude small business and minority and women-owned business, and what do you think can be done about it? We
do not bundle, Congresswoman, at DFW, and we have a very, very strong commitment to our minority and women-owned partners in the community. Last year, on the expenditure or construction side, we had about $200 million to minority and women-owned businesses, and on the concessions or revenue side, we had about $150 million. So we have a very strong program. We're committed to it. We work with our partners in the community, and we will continue to focus on those programs.
Thank you. My goodness, Mr. Little?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've been discussing because we have specific challenges in Washington State with I-200, et cetera.
You have specific challenges?
With I-200.
With DBEs in particular?
Well, if we have a project that has grants associated with it, then we can set DBE goals. If not, we can't based on state laws. But one of the things
I'm sorry, you'll have to explain that.
there's a state law that we have in Washington State called I-200, which prevents us from setting those goals. It's specific to the state of Washington.
Could he just complete his answer, Mr. Chairman?
Pardon?
Have you completed your answer?
No, I'm not finished.
Okay, try to wrap it up, please.
Okay. I'll stop there. Sorry. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would concur with the ranking member, Mr. Larson, that Alex Haley's airport